All right, what is up, everybody? We are back with another edition of Everyday Hoops. Hope you guys are having a good one. Today, we're going to be recapping the madness of the first two-ish days of free agency here in today's video. We got a lot to talk about and to dive into. Thank you guys for the views on the videos and the shorts recently. I really appreciate it. If you do like the content around here, consider subscribing, liking, turn notifications, doing all stuff like that. I really appreciate it. It really helps out a lot. I'll link to my Twitter and all that stuff down in the description below. And yeah, don't want to waste any more of your time. Let's get right to it. All right, we're going to start today's video with the crazy news that happened Tuesday morning. The Milwaukee Bucks are doing a lot of things. Also, by the way, if you hear thunder in the background, a thunderstorm literally just started happening as soon as I hit record, which is crazy because it was just 90 degrees 30 minutes ago. But when you're where I live, you never know what the weather's going to be like. Anyway, we'll start with the Milwaukee Bucks. Craziness going on with Milwaukee. First, they out of nowhere signed Miles Turner to a 4-year, $107 million deal. A stunner to start off. Everyone kind of expected him to go back to Indiana. Even before the NBA Finals started, the Pacers were a team saying, like, hey, they usually never go into luxury tax or anything like that. They were willing to go into the luxury tax and do anything they can to keep Miles Turner around in Indiana because he has been the heart and soul of the Pacers for the past 9-10 years. And now we see the Bucks take him away. $26 million a year for Miles Turner. Maybe it's an overpay, sure, but they really do believe that Miles Turner is going to be, a big key to helping this team. And it's just crazy to see Indiana kind of not go all out for their guy. Maybe the Tyrese Halliburton injury really affected them and they really had to take a step back and look at things and be like, you know what? Next year, we're not going to be as great. I still think they're going to be a playoff team. Now that Miles Turner, it's a big thing. There's reports saying that they wouldn't give away from the 3-year, $60 million deal that they were trying to offer. And he goes to a rival that gives a lot more money. And for the Bucks, it was a good move. I like this for the Bucks. I think he's a kind of the perfect center you want next to Giannis. With Brook Lopez nearing the end of his career, you get a guy like Miles Turner that can shoot the 3 ball and space the floor with Giannis, while also being a really good rim protector. So that, rim, that basket, it could be really well protected. But then you think, how do they have enough money to sign Miles Turner? How do they have enough money to give Miles Turner $26 million a year? What the heck? Well, it was reported, probably the craziest news of free agency so far. Damian Lillard is being waived by the Milwaukee Bucks, and they're going to stretch his $113 million contract over the next 5 seasons. Really unprecedented stuff. We've never really seen anything like this before. Dame suffered his Achilles injury in the first round of the playoffs. The 2 years in Milwaukee has not been ideal for him and the Bucks. It hasn't been an ideal marriage, and the Bucks are just taking the bullet, I guess, and be like, you know what? We're just going to get rid of this cap. They're paying about $22.5 million now over the next 5 years for Dame, and now he gets to go on to a new situation where apparently reports are saying that he's excited to be going on to a new situation. Just insane, like really insane stuff with the second apron and all this stuff going on that the Bucks have to get really creative. And now a guy of Damian Lillard's caliber is getting waived with 2 years left in his deal and $113 million left in your deal, coming off of a torn Achilles that he's probably not going to be able to fully play next season. Like, just insane stuff from the Bucks. They're taking really a big gamble. They're taking a big gamble here and hoping that Giannis is happy and doing anything they can for Giannis. And reports came out after about Chris Haynes saying that Giannis wasn't really happy with them waiving Dame and, how it was handled and all that stuff. Maybe it's the opposite on Dame's end, where Dame loved not being in Milwaukee anymore. He finally gets to go to a team that actually he wants to go to. Because remember, when he wanted to trade from Portland, Milwaukee was not a team that was on the radar. He did not want to go there, but eventually had to go kind of end up there because they didn't want to send him to Miami. And yeah, just insane stuff, man. I'm hoping Dame gets right. I don't know much about what's going to happen now with Damian Lillard in terms of, is he going to sign a contract? I would not be too shocked if he just kind of doesn't sign this offseason, waits to get fully healthy, then maybe at the All-Star break, or maybe even he sits out a whole year. I really don't know. But the Bucks are making moves. They re-signed Bobby Portis to a 3-year, $44 million deal. Kevin Porter Jr. gets a 2-year deal. Gary Trent Jr., Torian Prince, Jericho Sims all get re-signed to basically bring the band back together. They also do sign Gary Harris to a 2-year deal, and they're going to trade away Pat Connaughton and 2 second-round picks to the Charlotte Hornets for Vasilij Micic to clear up some money. So the Bucks are really out here making moves, man. They really are. It's insane stuff. It's probably a bigger story that we're going to hear about tonight or tomorrow, or there's going to be more added on to this story because it's just really insane. Like, we've never seen anything like this before. But I guess they really are trying to do anything they can to keep Giannis around. And they think getting Miles Turner and letting Damian Lillard walk is like the best move. And they're just going to keep this band together, and we're going to see how it really works out in the future. Next, we're going to talk about another team doing a lot of free agency. It's the Houston Rockets. Obviously, they made the Kevin Durant trade a little bit before the draft started, and they made a big splash early in free agency, bringing in Dorian Finney-Smith on a 4-year, $53 million deal. But they're not done because they also brought in Clint Capella on a 3-year, $21.5 million deal. They also re-signed guys like Jeff Green and Aaron Holiday to keep the band together. And the Rockets are really making moves, man. The Rockets are really moving and making things happen. They really are seeing like this is our year right now. We won 52 games last year with this young nucleus, and we are going to do anything on our power to keep this going. And the Kevin Durant trade was an amazing trade for them. You know, not giving up really anything of too much value for them to get a guy like Kevin Durant. Now you bring in Dorian Finney-Smith, a guy that's just going to fit in perfectly with this team, with the defensive identity he has. Now you have a wing defense of Amen Thompson, Jabari Smith Jr., Dorian Finney-Smith, Tari Eason off the bench, like just wing defenders for days. You know, and he can help hit the three-pointer. And then Clint Capella, a guy who you honestly kind of didn't really need, but last year they killed offensive rebounds. Offensive rebounds were like their offense. Like, we're just going to get offensive rebounds and just get extra opportunities, because if we get so many shots, eventually we're going to make them. And so let's just sign a guy that was been here before, and a guy that's one of the better rebounders and stuff in the game, and Clint Capella, who can play a little bit of time here and there. So the Rockets are just doing things well. They probably are the winners of the offseason right now, doing all of this while still having kind of the same core team of next year, sans Jalen Green. But man, I mean, you have a feature lineup of Freddie, Amen, KD, Jabari, who they just also signed to a extension, Şengün, Finney-Smith, Steven Adams, Clint Capella, Tari Eason. Like, just so you have so much. Steven Adams is still here. Aaron Holiday can give you some decent minutes off the bench. Just they have so much on this team right now, man. So much on this team, and this is a team that is scary. You know, the Rockets are doing it right. They're doing everything right so far. They get an A+. Like, their offseason has just been awesome. Another team that I think is really doing it right, the Atlanta Hawks. Like, making the Porzingis trade a little bit before the draft was so big, especially giving up nothing, basically, like George Niang and Kristaps Porzingis. Then you make the trade with the Pelicans in the draft, where you get a first-round pick from the Pelicans and the Bucks, which now, you know, it's a favorite, the better of the Bucks and the Pelicans pick, which those look like really weird situations. Who knows where that's going to go. You get that at the draft while also still getting a guy, and Ace Newell at 23, where you probably could have got him at 13. You trade 10 spots down and still get your guy. And then free agency. They go out, they make a sign and trade to get Nickeil Alexander-Walker on a 4-year, $62 million deal, one of the better players in free agency. And then they also signed Luke Kennard to a 1-year deal. So the Hawks are just doing everything right. Now, they brought in a new GM this summer, and he's been killing it. I mean, every move has been great. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, one of the better 3-and-D guard/wings in the league, and a perfect player to put next to Trae Young. Now you have him and Dyson Daniels on your wings to guard, and that defensive infrastructure that they're building around Trae Young has just been so killer. Luke Kennard, just a guy that can come in and just space the floor, and marksman from 3. Porzingis, getting him for basically nothing, and the idea of Kristaps Porzingis now with Trae Young. Like, this Hawks team looks kind of, I'm not saying they're going to win a championship or anything, but this looks like a really fun young Hawks team when you have Trae Young, Dyson Daniels, Zachary Versace, who I think is going to be really good, Jalen Johnson, Onyeka Okongwu, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Luke Kennard, Kristaps Porzingis. Like, they just have so much on this team right now. Like, it's looking pretty nice. Like, the Hawks are doing it right. You know, it's been it's been down the last few years when they made the conference finals and they had to pay John Collins, traded for DeJounte Murray. Those things didn't really work out. They kind of been in like that mid-tier basketball where they've been around an 8 to a 10 seed for the past 2-3 years. Now they're finally building something. And especially with how the Eastern Conference, how things look right now, this is definitely a team that could be a for sure playoff lock. Like, this team looks really, really good. I love that the Hawks are going down this direction. Another team making moves happen right now, the Denver Nuggets. First, they made the first kind of trade of free agency, I guess, where they're sending Michael Porter Jr. and a 2032 first-round pick unprotected to the Brooklyn Nets in exchange for Cam Johnson. This is a move that more of a salary clearer for Denver. Michael Porter Jr. is getting paid so much money, they had to kind of let some of that money go. And you get a guy in Cam Johnson who's on the similar level to Michael Porter Jr. And Cam Johnson, I feel like, just a better, I like the fit of him in Denver. These are the type of teams that he's kind of made for. Big wing, shoot the 3, defend. You lose some size, maybe a little bit, but you gain a shooter, better defender, and just a guy that, I mean, with the Phoenix Suns, he was amazing on that team that was going to the finals and stuff. Like, these are the type of teams that he was, like, really meant for. And you give him a 2032 unprotected first, which you never know is going to happen 7 years from now. Who knows what the NBA looks like and what your team looks like. But when you have Nikola Jokic right now, you have to take those type of risks and those opportunities to get better. And I think the Nuggets, I don't know if they got a crazy amount of better from this move just singularly, but I think it's a cheaper move. It gives you a lot of flexibility. We've seen them take advantage of it, which we're going to talk about in a second. But I really like this. And for the net side of things, Michael Porter Jr. is a guy that could be, kind of interesting. Put him in a different role. We'll see. And obviously, that 2032 unprotected first is what you look at here, and you're like, dang, maybe that could be something one day. So they do that. They also are signing Bruce Brown back. Bruce Brown, the champ on that 2023 team, that 6-man, to a vet minimum, which I think is amazing value. And Bruce Brown was not really existent the last year with Toronto and New Orleans, but him going to Denver, a place where he was really utilized and played the best basketball of his career, that's an amazing move. He was a fan favorite over there. They also are signing Tim Hardaway Jr. to a 1-year deal, getting another shooter in there, building up that bench, and they traded away Dario Saric to the Kings for Jonas Valanciunas, so they actually have a good backup center and don't have to roll out 48-year-old DeAndre Jordan anymore. So the Nuggets are really making moves happen. I love this. I mean, you saw last year they were one game away from taking out the eventual champions and going to the conference finals. They know they're right there. You have the best player in the world, Nikola Jokic. You have to do everything you possibly can to bring this team to the next level. And doing all these moves, now you have a new lineup of, same starting lineup as last year. You put Cam Johnson in. Now you have a bench of Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway, Jonas Valanciunas, Payne Watson. Like, that is way better of a bench than you had last year when you're not relying on guys like Julian Strawther and Jalen Pickett and DeAndre Jordan to have to provide you something. You have actual good rotational pieces. I think the Nuggets are doing it big as well. They're making some amazing moves. And I just can't wait to see what's next for them. And can't wait to see how these guys look next year in Denver. But I think they're also been a winner of the offseason so far. Another team that's been very active so far in free agency is the Memphis Grizzlies. Most of them has been re-signing. They kicked off free agency. They re-signed Jaren Jackson Jr. to a 5-year, $240 million deal, making the Desmond Bane trade actually kind of work, because a big reason why trading Desmond Bane is to, give Jaren Jackson these extensions and have more money to kind of fill out the rest of this roster. And so they give Jaren money, a lot of money, but kind of makes sense to me. You're a young guy that was an all-star, all-NBA type of talent. I mean, makes sense. And now you're building this team around John Jaren. They also re-signed Santi Aldama to a 3-year, $52.5 million deal. Santi, I think, had a really good year last year. He made my role player all-star team. I think he's a really good fit over there. I like him in Memphis. Cam Spencer gets a 2-year deal, so now maybe he might get actual rotational minutes. And then they also pick up Ty Jerome on a 3-year, $28 million deal. Only have to pay around $9 million a year for Ty Jerome is amazing value. I mean, I think a lot of people thought he was going to get more, maybe around a 14, 15, which is why the Cavs made the move for Lonzo Ball and re-signed Sam Merrill because they're like, okay, we're probably not keeping him. But to only get a guy like Ty Jerome on $9 million is like great. I really like his fit over there. Really good, another ball handler. You have him, and you have Scottie Pippen Jr. as well. 2 guys that could come off the bench, handle the ball. If Ja does get injured, you could throw him in. Like, he's just a really solid overall basketball player. And I think he's a great fit over there in Memphis. So the Grizzlies are making things happen, man. Like, you trade away Desmond Bane. The last 2 years have not been the greatest years for Memphis after having a really good start to this kind of era of Ja, Jaren, and them. But now they're kind of building up this team, and more you see, the more and more you're like, okay, they're making something happen here, which is all you can really ask for teams like this. Now we're getting into more specific deals instead of teams. We'll start with D'Angelo Russell. He's signing a 2-year, $13 million deal to go to the Dallas Mavericks. This is something that was reported before free agency happened that looked like it was going to be the move. And I think it's a good move for Dallas. I mean, we know with Kyrie Irving, we know he's going to miss at least the first half of the season probably due to, his ACL injury. And now bringing in D'Angelo Russell, a guy that's just going to hold it down. That's all he really needs to do. Just come in, hold it down for first half of the year. Then when Kyrie comes back, you call off the bench. And now you put him on the bench. And this Mavericks team looks really good. I mean, full health, you have Kyrie, Clay, Cooper Flag, AD, Lively. You have D'Lo off the bench, Najee Marshall off the bench, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Max Christie. Like, this is a very good team on paper, the Dallas Mavericks. So I think D'Lo is a really nice move here. He gets to go to a team that actually kind of needs him for a little while and goes to a winning team. So I think it's a really good move for D'Angelo Russell for the Mavericks. Brook Lopez goes to the Clippers on a 2-year, $18 million deal. Very surprising, but I think it's a really great move for both sides. For the Clippers, you get a good backup big, like probably one of the better backup bigs you can get on the market. We have Zubac. You sit down. Last year, it was Ben Simmons running the 5 in the postseason against Jokic and them. Now you have a Brook Lopez, a guy that plays a different game than Zubac, but he can also protect the rim, and he can space the floor. Now you can play a different style of offense for the Clippers And I think for Brook Lopez himself, last year was not a great year for Milwaukee, especially in the playoffs, because at this point, I don't think Brook Lopez is a starting, play 35 minutes a game type of guy anymore. He's just at the end of his career, and now he gets to go to a great situation where he goes home to LA, for one, and two, he doesn't have to play as much and, put so much effort on his back. He can come in and just kind of do that in a very limited role. Sometimes he might play a lot of minutes, sometimes he won't play a lot of minutes. Depends on what happens with Zubac, depending on the matchup and stuff. I think this is an amazing move for both sides. I was really excited about. Very surprised at, but I think it's a great move. Caris LeVert goes to the Detroit Pistons on a 2-year, $29 million deal with the whole Malik Beasley thing going down. Looks like the Pistons are going to need to pivot, and they bring in Caris LeVert, a guy that plays different than Malik Beasley, but can still provide some value coming off the bench as just being another ball handler and a scorer. I feel like last year they didn't really have a lot of. It was like Cade handing the ball all the time. Now Caris LeVert, who's not an all-star by any means or anything like that, but he's a solid player that on some nights can go out and get you 20, 25, 30 points. He can be an extra ball handler, can attack the rim, puts pressure on the rim, makes some solid passes. Just, he's a decent basketball player. And especially coming off your bench, it's not a bad thing to have. Kevon Looney goes to the New Orleans Pelicans, 2-year, $16 million deal, an end of an era. He was a legend over there in the Bay in Golden State, help him win a couple of championships. And now he's on his way to New Orleans. The Pelicans need some big man play, I guess. You have Yves missing Derek Queen, two young guys, but I guess you bring in a veteran now, and Kevon Looney, who can come in and eat up some minutes on some pretty nice contracts. So I guess it's a decent move for the Pelicans. Speaking of centers, Luke Kornet goes to San Antonio on a 4-year, $41 million deal. Luke Kornet played great for the Celtics last year in their run. He's just a really good, valuable, big center that's going to block shots or rebound and do the little things. And I think for the Spurs, it's an amazing get, having some more, big man play around Victor Wembanyama. He can play with Wemby, he can play without Wemby. That Wemby and Kornet paint when they're on the court together is going to be a no-go. It's going to be a block party over there. I think it's a great value for him and for the Spurs. Dennis Schroeder goes to the Sacramento Kings on a 3-year, $45 million deal. Gets a really good bag. I would like to see him on more of a winning situation, but I cannot fault him for going out and getting $15 million per year, because we all would have done the same thing. Sacramento needs point guard play, and they get it with Dennis Schroeder. They've been talking about him, Russell Westbrook, and they get Schroeder, who had a really good year last year, especially when he got to Detroit, played a very big, valuable piece over there, and now he goes to Sacramento, a team that is, I guess, trying to somewhat win, and he gets a starting role. So, again, I would like to see him in a better winning situation, but I can't really fault him, but he's going to get a lot of opportunity. Gershon Yabusele goes to the Knicks on a 2-year, $60 million deal. They also are going to bring in Jordan Clarkson after he clears waivers after his buyout with the Jazz. Gershon had a really good year last year with the 76ers, being a good stretch 4-5 that can, hit the three, rebound, be athletic. And I think he's going to really help liven up that backup rotational center minutes, and just be a guy that can do the dirty work. That's what Gershon does. And Jordan Clarkson, a guy that can come in and score. Obviously, the Knicks bench is a big topic because before with Tom Thibodeau, they never played their bench until the end of the season. But now they get a guy that can come off the bench and can be a flamethrower. Jordan Clarkson has kind of gone downhill a little bit over his career, but he's still got some bucket getting left in his system. And I think on this type of Knicks team, they kind of have needed a guy like this that can just come off the bench and just shoot the ball. Don DiVincenzo did very well over there, even though DiVincenzo's not the same player as Jordan Clarkson. But just a guy that's going to come off the bench and just shoot the ball confidently, not care at all. I think it's a great move from the Knicks. And then final move we're going to talk about, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the Finals MVP, the MVP, the scoring champ, has signed a 4-year, $285 million deal. He's going to get paid $71 million per year. The first $70 million player in NBA history, the biggest contract in NBA history, and it's well-deserved. Had an amazing season last year. All-star, All-NBA first team, MVP, Western Conference Finals MVP, scoring champion, Finals MVP, anything, 30 points per game, anything he did, like everything you could possibly do, he dang near did last year on the championship winning Thunder, and he obviously deserves this. And just insane that we're getting someone, like reports already say he's going to get almost $1 million per game that he plays. I mean, that is just nuts, but it's well-deserved by Shai, because he is a absolute, hooper. An elite hooper at that. So shout out to him for getting some money. But yeah, it's gonna be it today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know down in the comment section below what your favorite moves of free agency have been so far. Once again, if you like the content around here, consider subscribing, liking, turn on notifications, doing all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. It really helps out a lot. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.